Okay, I don't know. Maybe it's too bright in here. I'm a little light like that. Do that for a while. It's a little too bright. It's Friday, March, some year. Time is very strange. I guess when it comes to the first of the month, people start to notice it. March 27th. So today's mini video lecture is coming out of chapter 9, business innovation. It's related to your task to some point. And I left off yesterday after talking about the benefits of innovation on page 57. So this will be on page 58. Page 58. So here we're talking about, most of the things that are on our task. Factors that affect innovation. So you're trying to go to a new market, or you're trying to create, well, this is true for any market, but in particular in your task, you're talking about other markets. So there's more complicating factors. There's things that you don't know about because you have to understand that market. Page 58. What is success in innovation? How do you know when an innovation is successful? Some indicators of success might be that it works. It seems effective. It does what it's supposed to do. Now that doesn't guarantee any kind of other success except for that kind of good feeling that you get from the sense that it's, functional. The innovation has got to the stage where it's fully developed, it works, and it can be taken to the next stage, which is called commercialization or market launch, which is in the product life cycle. It's the introduction of the product to the market. Commercialization. In the last video, or maybe it was the first video this week, I mentioned at the end that there's a big difference between being the creator of something new that will be successful, and also being the one that the customers or the consumer in general gravitates to as their understanding of the product and their understanding of how they can use the product is clear. So when you first launch a product, it may not really be clear to the consumer how it really is better than what came before. Yeah, okay, well, it's, and there might be some debate too. So when MP3s started and people were able to share files in music files, the people who had CDs, they would say, okay, well, the sound quality is still better on a CD. So for me, I'm going to stay with CDs, and I'm not going to use these MP3s of inferior quality. Now we all listen to music on our smartphone speakers, which are awful. So for the most part, we've all kind of just given up on sound quality, and we expect pop music to be so plastic, I guess is the right word, and overproduced that it even, you can make out the melody on a phone speaker. But for the most part, it's, if I upload a song that I want to share on Facebook with people, or I think is appropriate, almost every time it has too much bass, and if people just listen to it on their phone, they don't really feel the power of the music, so I just give up on that now. But at the time, there were still people who respected the sound of the CD, so no one was ready to jump, most people weren't ready to jump 100% into MP3s. So it took time, but it happened. It definitely happened. Commercialization. An innovation has been developed into a product or service and packaged with a marketing strategy and launched into the market. So to get to the next step, it would have to become popular. Call that popularization. A lot of products fail, right? They're not, the market isn't ready for them. Or they're not the simplest or easiest to use. Sometimes they're not even the best. There were two different formats of videos. One was called VHS. It was big tapes that people still might have around their house somewhere. And the other one was called Betamax. The quality of Betamax was better, the tape was smaller, it was easier to transport, and but the VHS people got the major producers to push the VHS machines and for it to become more of a standard. And the beta machines were slightly more expensive, so even though it was a better format, had better quality, people went for the cheap one. So VHS actually beat Betamax as the video cassette of choice. So it depends. Yeah, it also depends on how it fits into the system that people already have for using the product. I guess you could look at that with these headphones, these AirPods a little bit. I mean, for me, I see negatives. I see positives. They're not going to break so easily because of the wire. That's great. But I've never had those Apple-style headphones be able to stay in my ears. And I fear that for $200, there's two things that I buy that I don't want to spend a lot of money on. Sunglasses. I love sunglasses. They're my favorite, but I'm not going to spend a lot of money. They're going to break. Or headphones. I'm not going to spend a lot of money. They're going to break eventually. So I just don't spend a lot of money on those things. And so if I spend $4 million or $200 on these AirPods and I lost one of them, I would be miserable. And at least the headphones are connected to my body. I never lost a headphone in my life. I never dropped them somewhere and couldn't see them or whatever. So maybe there's a way, maybe there's another innovation to keep the AirPods on your body so you don't lose them. So there's another idea, another potential innovation. And that's really integration into a product or service. So that's what I'm saying. People have a user experience that they already expect, whether it's whether they use headphones in general, how they use them, how they keep them, how they store them, how much value they place on them. So that's integration into a product or service. The innovation has been incorporated into the system that people use for existing products or services. And hopefully this has brought better quality. The features are giving some benefit and also maybe better performance. Smartphone, until you can really find a way to use the functions that you usually use with your laptop, the smartphone is limited in some ways to what you can do. I don't like to use the Google products in the Google Classroom. I don't find the phone is very useful for using those kind of products. I don't want to open PDFs on my phone. I don't really find it the best way to listen to music. I have an MP3 player for that. So some things can integrate into your, don't integrate completely. So having a product accepted as what the new expectation is by customers, consumers, is part of a success too, right? So when people realize, when your innovation and design is the standard, then that's a huge success, then it's completely accepted. Income, of course, everybody wants to make income from the product, so that would be another form of success. Number one, timing. Timing is a tricky thing. I mentioned before, because I knew I would repeat it, the timing has two meanings. The first meaning is that the customer is ready to accept the product. It is something that they are ready for. So let's see, products. And we all know the phrase, everybody knows the phrase, ahead of their time, right? Something is ahead of their time. It's like the future happened too early. 6 products that were ahead of their time. The picture phone. Someone had a picture phone, but it wasn't ready. It wasn't good enough, but then someone made it better and made more money. 7 products that were ahead of their time. So the idea that things can be ahead of their time is, so yeah, the Apple PDA, I don't remember that, 93. 93? I don't want to pay for this. What are you offering me? No, I don't want to pay for this. It's worse. Well, they give one example here. Oh, they're going to trick me, but I can go back and forth over and over again. And then get the next screen. Look at that one, the Betamax. That's the one I was talking about. So the Betamax was a better machine than the VCR. This one is some kind of gaming system that Nokia made in 2003. It was kind of ahead of the Game Boy. And they had the right idea. They knew what people wanted. But then, oh, this is such a headache. This is so stupid. What do they think? Someone in Vietnam is going to go and put their credit card into their, pay for a British newspaper? Seriously? So this article just stole, or someone stole from somewhere. The Apple's message pad, they had their own little PDA. $700. Now that is where you start to get into cost, right? So if you can't, you might have the best idea in the world, and then it's too expensive for customers to become a popular item or a mass market product. It just stays as this kind of niche product. The Laserdisc was even better. It was like it was like a DVD before DVDs. It looked like an album, like a record album. It was huge. Played movies, great quality. But 1978. The discs were easy to damage, unfortunately. No way to record on them. Here we have 1996. Somebody had some idea that they would be able to watch a movie by putting glasses on. That's cool, right? But in today's dollars, that's $1,400. So you could, put this thing on your head, I guess, kind of thing. 1977. I don't know what this thing is. We never saw it before, and they're not going to show us pictures. Why is it so bad? Polavision. Never heard of it. What is Polavision? So you have this thing, instant color home movie system. So before the video camera was ready in 1977, they had a way that they could create film directly. They had their own player and cassettes. This little player. How cute is that? film was had low light sensitivity, but it was way ahead of its time. Web TV, watching online. Now, I think that's a good place to jump off from. So I'm going to go back. There's a lot to talk about here. So timing can mean that the product is not ready for the market, or the customers are not ready for the product. They don't see the use of it, or they maybe find a cheaper alternative. So they choose the cheapest option eventually. So timing is one way, it's about the customer's readiness to accept the new product, and the second way is the product life cycle, which means that where does this product hit in the product life cycle? So are we changing the game? Are we jumping into a market that's just too early? Is the timing too early? Is the product being introduced? Or is it a mature market and we're trying to take market share from other companies? So innovation is more likely to succeed during times of prosperity. Okay, well I guess that's always true for anything, right? If there's an economic upturn, then people spend more money on everything, so an innovation would also be included. Consumers are more likely to try a new product or service if they have more discretionary income, and consumer confidence is high. If there is potential demand for the new product or service, then also the retailers and wholesalers will be more open to distributing your product. So I guess they're saying that you should be wary that if you have a market that is slow and wholesalers and retailers have to invest time and effort into distributing your product, they might find that it's not to their benefit if the economy is not good, or they might not take a risk or support you. In stronger economic times, a company is more likely to take on a risk of dedicating time, money, and focus to creating something new. For the most part, that's a constant now in our world. Is risk is where people can make their fortunes, so they go for it. It's very most companies would not talk today about being conservative as a good quality or good trait. Everybody wants to be innovative. The stage of the product life cycle will also have an impact on the success of an innovation. When a product is in the growth or maturity stage, there's already brand awareness and a market presence. Consumers know about the product, they may have bought it before, and there are established distribution and marketing strategies. So in this case, you don't have to worry about the integration of the product or service into people's lives. They already understand what it is that you're offering them. If it's in the introductory phase, they might not, they might not really see the benefits of a smartphone. They might not really get it. I have a telephone, I have a normal mobile phone, it calls, I send texts, everything's great. I've got everything I need. Why do I want to be on the internet everywhere? That doesn't make sense to me. Why is that important? Now, it's popular. Now we get it. But, well, we got it. But before, if you told someone they could read the newspaper on the phone, they'd be like, the newspaper is way more easy. It's easier to read. I want to hold the newspaper in my hand. The text is bigger. The text on the phone is very small, and at that time, very difficult to read, very hard to move and scroll and navigate. So it wasn't really fun. So most people, or many people, did not really see the benefits of a smartphone until the iPhone, really. But once the iPhone came and other phones had similar features to the iPhone and the Android system started, everybody knew what to do. Everybody was comfortable with that. You didn't have to convince them of the usefulness of this new product. So depending on what part of the life cycle is what kind of marketing you're going to have to do to get customers interested in this product. And also the way that you pitch them. For example, if you have a hybrid car has a battery that's powered by the fuel that you put into the car. So when you put the fuel in the car, it creates some battery power that means that you use far less gasoline. You can market that product in different ways. You can market it to, maybe if we're introducing the car to people, you might talk about how it's going to be good for the environment. Can you still drive a car and be good for the environment? Yes, buy this hybrid car. Or to other people who already are concerned, or maybe in a market that's maybe in a time when the market is good and people have a lot of disposable income. You can charge a high price and you can claim that it's environmentally friendly. On the other hand, you might have an economy that's not going well, for example, and you want to focus on the fact that people, okay, it's a little bit more expensive now, but the money that you'll save 50% of your cost on gasoline, petrol for your car over 5 years is going to save you a lot more money than you would have spent otherwise if you bought a normal gasoline car. So, right, the timing of the market, the product life cycle, whether the market is in a high or low phase, whether customers are ready for the product. So there's probably 3 elements of timing, right? Economic conditions, product life cycle, and consumers' openness to new products. An innovation can build on existing success in the market and exploit the market share and marketing systems that already exist. A company will also have substantial data from market research and their customer database to refine innovations and generate ideas. At the maturity stage, the company may also have made profits that could finance innovation. So, you're either innovating a new product or the same product. Apple obviously has made profits so they can keep innovating their new phone. Even as I said yesterday, they already knew what they were going to modify for the next phone already. Market research is largely based on the past. It identifies preferences, data, and characteristics on a point or a past point in time. Ideas may also be based on current capabilities and performance of the company. Things may change. There may be changes in the economy, consumer behavior, staff turnover, technology. We'll talk about that with technology on the next page. And may have an impact on the nature and viability of the innovation. So the support network, that's technology. Management needs to use their judgment and information at hand to identify the ways a company can and the business environment can change. So let's look at Nokia for a few minutes and think about what happened to them. Nokia, if you look at their market share, maybe it's hard even to believe at this point. Nokia is very cheap stock now. Nokia, there you are. So, I mean, it doesn't get, you don't fall much harder than this, right? This is 50% right here. Okay, 50% in 2000 and up until 2007 or 2008. Nokia had more than half the market for all phones. And by 2013, this isn't over 12 years, this is over 5 years, they crashed to like 2 or 3% of the market, global market share, 50% of global market share. You do not fall harder than Nokia did. Just an unbelievable fall. How could they how could they go so wrong, right? How could someone manage to drive a company into the ground so hard? So here it is again in a different form. They really had a huge market share all the way up into 2008 and really 2009, and then that was the end. So there's another graphic from 41, or almost half, to 5% in 4 years. They were looking good. No one was even close. Sony, Samsung had 15%. No one was even close. So what happened? Let's check it out.
Bulky with large batteries, yet they still have very small, almost unreadable displays. At the time,
so these are the original mobile phones, these massive things that, you hold it, it's like you're an astronaut or something. It's like something you would only expect to see, from someone on a moon landing.
mobile phones were still huge and bulky with large batteries, yet they still had very small, almost unreadable displays. When the sleek device came to market, people were stunned. The 2110 pretty much went all the way. It had address books, missed call and text indicators, and it was the first phone to feature that now familiar Nokia ringtone, which was composed over 100 years ago, by the way. And not only that, it was one of the very first phones to be able to both send and receive text messages. The 2110 was an absolute smash hit, and went on to become one of the
2110, I had it. That was my first phone. I don't even remember how much it cost. I have no idea, no memory whatsoever. I did use those cards though. I had to put cards in it. They had that system already.
best-selling phones of all time. And because of this, it pretty much defined the way a business phone should look. But that wasn't all. Nokia was just getting started, and the importance of software was fully realized in 1996 with the Nokia 9000 communicator. It took IBM's 1993 concept of the smartphone even further, by adding a full QWERTY keyboard, web browsing, email, fax, word processing, and a
They tried, right? Faxing, whatever, we have a keyboard instead of having you can't believe how strong your thumbs used to be when you have to press all these keys so fast. But everything was kind of weak, right? They had the features, but they weren't at the point. People were like, yeah, okay, it's a picture of a guy with a fish. I guess it's nice that you can look at that. But here's a picture in color of the same guy with a fish, and it looks better.
Of course, the 90s quintessential spreadsheet. The only problem with this device was that it hit the market too early.
Hit the market too early. Timing.
In many respects, people couldn't relate to the aspect of an all-in-one encompassing phone. The $800 price tag also didn't help. But to Nokia overall,
too expensive and ahead of its time.
That didn't really matter because by this stage, they were on fire. In 1997, Nokia released the 6110. This was the first phone to ever feature the most legendary mobile game ever made, Snake. The 6110 also had an advanced user interface that was to become the industry standard. It's kind of the same equivalent importance as the home screen on your modern smartphone today. By 1998, Nokia overtook Motorola as the #1 phone manufacturer in the world. But during this same year, a significant event occurred that would help shape Nokia's destiny. It was a mobile operating system. You see, Nokia was really into the software side of things, and they believed that having an active role in software development could be beneficial for the company. So they got on board with a software called Symbian. Even though Symbian was heavily used by Nokia, it wasn't their sole creation. Symbian originated from an operating system created in the 1980s. Symbian was actually a major joint venture between Ericsson, Motorola, and Nokia themselves. After this, Symbian split into different platforms for different mobile phone manufacturers. There was a version built by...
So, yeah, okay. If you get good with this thing, maybe you can process some information. Maybe you can sell your stocks if you're a stockbroker. Maybe there's a few people that are using it as some kind of diary or planner. It's possible. You had to use this this little pointer thing in order to make it work. I don't think you're going to write a whole document there. Maybe for managing sending documents or a few emails, it was getting a little bit better, but I still didn't use it for that.
Nokia. For Nokia, Samsung and LG phones, and there was another version for Sony Ericsson phones and Motorola phones. The Symbian operating system was actually quite advanced for the day, but actually later proved to be a real thorn in the flesh for Nokia. There'll be more on Symbian in the next part. Okay, back to the story of Nokia and their incredible innovative streak. By 1999, Nokia was absolutely smashing it, and the Nokia 3210 was the bombshell. This phone actually accommodated for consumer consumption with multiple covers. It also featured pre-made two-tone picture messages, such as a happy birthday that could be sent by SMS. It was also very cheap, which for the first time meant that it was available to ultra-tech-savvy teenagers born in the 1980s. Remember, mobile phones at the time were seen as mum and dad's work.
So now everyone can afford one. It was for everyone. That was the beginning of that whole thing. If you went into a mobile phone store at this time, all you saw was like 20 different Nokia versions and a few other companies.
Communication tool. And for the first time, the 3210 made technology cool and sociable. Nokia had officially reached almost every market, an absolutely incredible feat by any means. In the early 2000s, Nokia just had hit after hit with phones such as the 5110 in the year 2000 and the 1100 in 2003. Again, one of the best-selling phones of all time. 2002 was a particularly good year for Nokia as they released the 6650, the world's first 3G phone, and also the 7650, Nokia's first ever camera phone, which incidentally was featured in that Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report. I guess the movie directors knew that camera phones were going to be the next big thing. From 2003, Nokia really began to experiment with different designs. And as it turns out, experimentation and winning streaks don't always go together. And hence, Nokia's first major mistake occurred in 2003.
The first major mistake? That was supposed to be a camera phone? That was a weird one. I never had that one.
A bit of context first. During this year, games in general were pretty hot. The PS2 and Xbox were just hitting their prime time, and the Game Boy Advance just blew the portable game market open just the previous year. Nokia wanted in. So what did they end up doing? Well, they ended up taking a slightly revamped LCD panel and modified a phone design to feature directional keys as well as a full phone dial. And they launched the infamous N-Gage. And just by looking at this picture of it, you can see a few problems. It generally would have been clumsy to use either as a phone or a gaming device, simply because of that design and button layout. Any multi-purpose product has to perform all of the advertised features well, and this just didn't cut it. In late 2004, the US manufacturer Motorola scored a worldwide hit with its very thin razor flip phone. Nokia got a bit of
flip phone, here comes the flip phone. Smaller in your pocket.
Criticism from its investors, and they were saying that they spent too much time on high-end smartphones, while rivals ate into the lucrative business of selling expensive dumb phones to people around the world. But despite this, in 2005, Nokia phones became so popular that they were the #1 digital camera brand worldwide. But it still wasn't enough for Nokia and their man.
So they were getting there. 8 times mega zoom. I don't know what that is. That's not megapixels. That's mega zoom, people. They were still going. A lot of people think Nokia sounds like a Japanese company. Maybe that was part of their attraction too. They're actually from Finland. So that's kind of interesting, I guess, in terms of the perception of customers. So, yeah, let's finish this real quick and then I'll go into cost.
The market for dumb phones proved to be too attractive. And because of this, Nokia's financial officer, Olli-Pekka Kalasko, took over from the management mindset of Mr. Olia in 2006. The new management merged Nokia's smartphone and basic phone operations. Now it was all about the bottom line. Instead of Nokia leaving basic phones behind and moving ahead, they focused more on the traditional phone. Nokia went backwards. Frankly, this change in management marked the beginning of the end for Nokia's amazing run. In the next episode, we'll see the inside information from previous staff members during Nokia's faltering days. Surprisingly, One of the major reasons for Nokia's fall was from within. Nokia would become plagued with internal company conflicts, which made them very slow in reacting to Apple's release of the iPhone and subsequently Android's release. It's actually pretty interesting to see what went on behind closed doors. Anyway, that marks the end of this episode. Thanks for tuning in and watching, but before I leave, I just want to leave one fun fact. You may have noticed that all the Nokia codes for all their phones never really have the number 4 in it. And that's because in Asian markets, the number 4 is seen as unlucky by some people. So I just thought that was quite interesting.
So market research showed don't use the number 4. So yeah, Nokia, you can see how many, so many different versions of these phones. How many did you see right there? Probably like 25 different versions. They spent so much on hardware. They thought that people wanted to express themselves through the design of their phone. And maybe to a point that was true, but I think they overestimated by a long way, right? Because once the iPhone came out, there was only one design. iPhone didn't make 50 different kinds of designs. They just focused on one functional design. Very different strategy. And when it comes to cost, on page 59, obviously the cost is going to be different and probably lower than trying to make 50 different versions of hardware just to have the same version of hardware. So that's one big reason why they failed. Innovation is risky, page 59, and it usually requires considerable investment of time and money, especially if you're a brand new innovation that people don't understand. This money has to come from either retained profits or some form of investment. Loans, grants, usually shareholders of big companies issuing stock. Excuse me. An innovation may take some time to be commercialized and profitable, if ever or at all. In the meantime, the company must bear the increase in operational cost of introducing it. An important responsibility is to know when to pull a plug on an innovation. If it's not working, this is the example I gave as the American military investing billions of dollars into a jet fighter that became inferior over time. It took too long to produce, and other countries had already passed this technology. But since they already poured so much money into it, they felt like they needed to finish it. That's what we call bad money, good money chasing after bad, which means money that still can be useful for something, chasing after a poor investment that's already finished. That's what it's called, good money chasing after bad, if you ever hear that expression. Sunken cost, that's the bad money. Sunken cost, money that's already put into the effort and committed. Ultimately, it's a loss if you pull the plug. But sometimes a small loss or a medium loss is better than a big loss, which could be the difference between staying alive and becoming bankrupt. Regardless of the money and effort already spent, if the project is no longer beneficial, cost-effective, or ready for market, costs that have been sunk in to the innovation cannot be recovered, and it should be terminated. So you got to know when it's over. This situation, and it applies to Nokia quite well, is called the innovation death spiral. Financing innovation allocates people and money to projects and takes resources away from existing operations. It makes the company slower. This is a management problem, really. This is, the management is too confident, especially Nokia. You know, you see them, they know that they're the market leader, they have the biggest market share. They think that everything around them is a niche, you know. They see themselves as a mass market brand, and that these new Apple, maybe at first the new iPhone, the new Apple is it's a niche, you know. Only certain people are going to spend that much money on a phone. The features are maybe useful for, you know, some people who have some specialist uses, but this phone, it'll never become a mass market phone. And that's called hubris. That's when you sit back and you're overconfident because you're in a good position. And that's true for Nokia, big time. And so they just kept investing money and pouring money into hardware and pouring money into what they thought was the mass market. They didn't see the mass market as touchscreen. They saw the mass market as still just handheld phones. If an innovation looks like it will be unsuccessful, a company may allocate more people and money to the project to try to make it work. This puts greater pressure on the core business and decreases the resources available for operating and marketing the existing products and services. That's a death spiral, when the problems that you have add more problems to the problems that you have until you have so many problems that you die. The losses from the innovation project can have an impact on the company as a whole and jeopardize the company's survival. This may also happen if a company invests substantial resources into incremental innovation, where they make a lot of small changes, which is also, Nokia made every mistake. So even though they had 20 different hardware models and 20 different styles of phone, none of them had any huge innovation that made you stand out, you know, or created, like, you know, it's like a band that has a lot of good songs but no hits. They really just sounded like the old Nokia sound, you know, the old Nokia phone. Is that different from the other? Well, yeah, it looks nice, it's a cool design. The phone, the screen is slightly bigger, it does everything pretty much the same. And it wasn't enough to put all that money and investment in. Cost also, I think there's two elements of cost. So there's the cost that the company puts in, right? And that can affect the company's survival and viability, and also put them in a position where someone can beat them in the market if they waste their resources. But the other side of it is when you have an innovation and the cost of the product is too high for the average consumer. So even though the iPhone pretty much stayed expensive all the way up until this $20 million iPhone X, still expensive, it's still a premium product. But now people expect to pay more for a smartphone, kind of. They expect to be a little bit. At first, people were like, what? I'm going to pay $400 for a phone? That's insane. Why would I want to do that? No, this one is $100, and that's fine for me. The features that the iPhone was offering were actually much better, but was it 4 times better? Was it worth spending 4 times the money to have the iPhone? At first, no. But then eventually they kept their price kind of in the right spot and created some pull demand, some pull promotion where it was cool to have the iPhone, right? People had to go seek it. You had to go look for those new iPhones. You had a friend that was coming back from America and they would bring you a new iPhone. So they had different things happening at the same time. It was cool, and also the functionality was improving, and people were starting to also value it more. They were starting to see that it was worth the value of investing more money in. In addition, like Starbucks, let's take Starbucks for example, or craft beer. There was a time not that long ago that people would not want to spend $60,000 or $70,000 on a coffee. But over years of marketing, they built up this idea that this is an actual treat. This is a luxury good. This is something that's special. It's not just a coffee, it's a frappuccino. Okay, it's not something you're consuming to wake up. It's something that's like, you know, it's got culture, it's got a location, it's got a brand, it's got a certain, you know, you walk around with the logo that you're carrying around with you when you're consuming this product. You're treating yourself to something special. That's a magical trick that they've done. Craft beer. Average person 10, 15 years ago in Vietnam, I don't need that. I just have my, you know, 10,000, 20,000 dong beer that I get in the shop. That's it. It's good enough for me. I just want to drink beer. Now there's this sophistication. There are these nice, beautiful places with good wooden tables and chairs where you can have a craft beer. You're not going to drink so many of them. You're going to drink a few of them. But they're special. You know, this is a special occasion. And you get to talk about it, and you get to act like you understand the product or beer. You're, you know, you have this sophistication that's connected to the product. So that also is part, or can be part of justifying a high price. So Apple, even though they had a higher price than Nokia by far, they were able to connect, like, well, maybe your smartphone is more important, you know, maybe you should treat yourself. Maybe there's something here that, you know, this is important to you. You shouldn't spend, you shouldn't be cheap with it. You should spend a little bit more money and get something that's better quality. Now, a lot of products are not ready for that. People are like, no, I don't want to spend, why do I need a TV for $2,000 with a curved screen? You know, these are the opposite of the early adopters. These are the people who are like, why do I need that? Why is this innovation something that I need to be aware of? Now, the early adopters, they'll try anything. But it has effects on whether or not your innovation is going to work. You know, are people willing to pay for what they perceive as the benefit from that new product? For example, they could be paying for features, some benefits. They can do their job easier. It gives them something that they can really use to create value. Or it gives them this sophistication that they're worldly, that they're ahead of other people. It can play on some of the Maslow fourth level type of needs for being competitive and, you know, at the top of the food chain. So a lot of it, right? A lot of it depends on the perception of the customer of the product and the value, right? Their value proposition. How much do they value it for the price that you're offering? Okay, and that's really going into market strategy. So cost, we have two issues. We have the cost of the investment, the R&D and marketing, and we also have the cost to the customer, their perception of the value for money. Marketing strategy. To successfully commercialize an innovation, a company must align its production and marketing strategies, and that might change the image of the company. A radical change may require an education campaign to build an understanding about the need for this innovation and the benefits that it will bring to consumers. Also need to convince the staff that it's something that's going to be of value. Marketing strategy may need a range of approaches, including PR, advertising, and changes in packaging and promotion within the distribution networks. When it says promotion within distribution networks, it means how you push your wholesalers and what you offer to your retailers. Pushing, that's a push strategy. So when you're working with your wholesalers and retailers to help educate, inform, and push a product, a new product, to customers. So you need to do this in order to build awareness, interest, and desire for the innovation. So sometimes it might be as simple as saying like, it's the new thing, or, you know, American style, you know, that might be enough to, make the consumers interested in that product. But a lot of times you'll have to explain to them why it's better. You know, why would a dryer help someone? What was the perception of someone who washes clothes about the benefits or, of a dryer? What, I can just throw it in the dryer, but then I have to go and iron it? Or is it already ironed? What do I have to do after I take it out of the dryer? So how do I maintain this equipment? There's a lot of questions that consumers have when they get into a new product. Wholesalers and retailers will need to be educated so that they can sell the features and benefits to consumers to generate demand. Yeah, me trying to use Zoom, that would be something that I wish that I guess there's all these videos on how to get the most out of Zoom. And I can see some of the functions that can work, and it's relatively easy to get to know, but I feel like a little bit, there's certain features I really don't like in it, and I haven't figured out how to beat them yet. Positioning. That's what I was talking about with the iPhone. Is the positioning a luxury brand, or is the positioning that it should be something that everybody should have, and it's a mass market product? Right? Huge difference between those. Positioning may also have an impact on the success of an innovation. If a company has built an image and a reputation for being innovative and high quality, then consumers, wholesalers, and retailers are more likely to believe that the claims about the new and improved product or services. And that, that comes into what is the perception of Japanese products? Nokia. At that time, the perception of Japanese products was quite high. And the competition was what? Other Japanese companies or Korean companies, Samsung. Ericsson was European. LG was also Korean. Sony, Ericsson. Sony was there with Ericsson, so that was Japanese. So all the mobile phone companies tended to come from Asia at that point. So the competitive advantage of being European would have made it seem maybe more like a luxury product and less like a mass market brand. So quite interesting, that part of the story. And again, yeah, that's your positioning. Let's say you were going to sell a dryer, you have a washing machine and a dryer. Is that something that you want to push as a mass market product? Is it something that you think that everyone should be able to buy? And is the market ready? Is there enough disposable income for that price? Can we find a marketing strategy that will show a value for the people who are doing laundry that's going to make them feel like it does improve their lives for that price? There's a lot of questions in there, right? The opposite would be to say, okay, this is a luxury brand. This is something that should be, if you want to put yourself in a position to be, if you're just taking a general example, if you're a housewife, now you're a luxury housewife. You don't have to go through this process of hanging all these clothes on a line. Just toss them in the dryer, kick back, and live the easy life. That was the 1950s in America, by the way. I think that's enough. That's about halfway through the innovation game today. So that gives you some things to think about in your task, right? So I hope that's a good start for you. I will continue with the second half of the Nokia story and some elements of technological, page 59 and 60 I'm going to go over in the next class. So have a good weekend, and I miss you.